Tune in to Necessary Conversations with APUA, your opportunity to hear directly from the APUA team. We're diving into issues that matters most to you. Ongoing projects, system upgrades, service improvements, and what it's like doing business with us. Tune in every second Tuesday at 10 a.m. on ABS Radio 90.5 FM or stream it live at www.abstvradio.com. APUA, necessary for life. Good morning and welcome to another episode of Necessary Conversations with APUA on ABS Radio, and I'm your host, Anisette Reynolds. This morning I am joined with Jason Peters, the acting water manager of APUA. He's no stranger to the general public. Everyone knows him by Basu. Good morning, and thank you for being here with me today.
Good morning, and the pleasure is mine.
All right, just before we dive into speaking about water, I like to start off with something light. And I would like to know, what is your absolute favorite thing to do when you're not working? Do you have any hobbies that make you recharge?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm a social butterfly. So what recharges me and what rejuvenates me, I'm always feel good to know that I could be a positive impact to people around me. And me and I call them my boys, but my brothers, any time spent with them is awesome time outside of time with my family. So, I'll recharge by getting to my family. They will remind me of things that I promised to do that I haven't done. So, while it may seem that recharge is making sure that I touch base with home and ensure that all the things that are home are fall in line. And then I don't mind playing a few dominoes with my boys.
All right, nice to know that. All right, so the first question I have would be some encouraging news that recently APUA Water Business Unit reached some milestones, major milestones, where you were producing more than 8.5 million, I'd say, an average gallons of water daily, and that's a big achievement. What were the main factors that contributed to reaching this goal?
Well, that was indeed a major goal, taking into account the state of affairs when I took term, and there was many things as to why it was low, but primarily focused though as to why we get there was the act of God. And when I say the act of God, the surface water was able to replenish, and Patworks Dam had replenished to the amount that we were able to get in excess of 900,000 per day from Patworks Dam. So that in itself was a major boost. Added to that, there were some repairs to a motor that was housed at the Crabs water treatment, and that gives us a further 500,000 gallons also. There was also some upgrades to the ultrafiltration at Fort James. That too enable the increase. And last but certainly not least, the intake pipe at the Fry's reverse osmosis. That too, that suction pipe there were some repairs done because there was some pressure, and we had to have excavators on the beach, etc., to have that repaired. And those are the main things that contributed to that major increase in the supply of water for that period.
So I just want to congratulate you and the team. I know there are lots of hands working together to get that sort of achievement, and what we'd want to know is that we are sustaining that sort of production.
Before you, I want to go on record to thank the team, because while I guess when blows are hit, they hit to the manager, and while praise are given to the manager, but all of this is a collaborated effort. And I want to go on record to thank the team, the entire water business unit, for the effort and that was put out to ensuring that these things were done. Those persons in the reverse osmosis plant, the production, the water treatment, etc., all are part and parcel of this success story.
Indeed. I must have a follow-up question for that, though, because while there is a lot of water that we are producing, we still have some communities, some pocket areas who may still be experiencing some periods where they're not receiving water. Do you mind explaining that to those customers who may be impacted?
Okay, so this is the reality of the situation. We have an aging transmission and distribution network, and as a result, there are intermittent or maybe more frequent than often interruption due to blockage in the transmission line and or distribution line. Now, persons will say, oh, I live in Liberta and a line is broken in All Saints, so why is that impacting me? Now, what has happened recently, and I want to dive into a real scenario where we had to close down the Delap station because the main line from Delap that feeds the water tank in All Saints, which then feeds the water tank and the pump station in Buckley's, those weren't getting any water from the preferred source, which was the Delap. So as a result, all those customers were out of water for an intermittent time while we tried to reroute the water to a different area. Where now the water coming from the crabs ROs, we are trying to channel them to that area. But because the primary and the way the operation was at the time, where all the water was coming from Delap, when you shut down that, it takes a while for it to run off, and then we have to send my team out to operate different valves to shut the water off from one way and reroute it to another route. And unlike electricity, when you just find a new route, the end result, which is the customer will see it, it takes time for those lines to be recharged. So now the water is going to come in from Crabs to Seaview Farm, etc., to get to those places, to get to Buckley's pump station, then up to Buckley's to get to Liberta and English Harbour. So it takes quite a long period for the water to recharge that way. So this is the thing that we are faced with. And I just use that situation to elaborate that. You will see a broken main or a broken main maybe. It may not be close to you, but it affects you downstream. Mm-hmm. A similar thing happens on the Valley Road in the vicinity of the Halls Estate. When that happens, that minimizes the amount of water that gets to Grayshill Reservoir. So all those areas that is fed from the Grayshill Reservoir will then suffer as a result. But we are working assiduously, and I have a team now. We're forming a collaborated effort with the Ministry of Works, where we're putting a team together to look at the areas where we're going to be working on together. I think there's two areas that comes to mind that we'll be working on to make sure that we show up the transmission and distribution lines, and that's Herbert's Road and also in the Point community, because those are two areas that we have had several mainline interruption, and as a result we're trying to foresee how we could forge a team together to map out the way forward as it relates to those areas.
Great, thank you for that. And Jason, one of the things that I must commend you for that is that you have settled into the water business unit where your background is electrical engineering. And I don't know if you just, for those persons who don't know, because I remember you as a lineman. I remember 1995. I do remember seeing you. But if you can just walk us through your path at APUA and how does your expertise in electrical engineering ties into water business unit, especially with the technology that we're now using.
Okay. I'll try to make it brief because my path to APUA is very long. I am in 30 plus years at APUA. But I went to APUA straight from State College, where at State College I did electrical engineering technology. I went into APUA as a linesman stack technician. I then left and went to study. I gained a Bachelor of Science in electrical engineering. I came back and worked in several different sections within the electricity business unit: customer service engineer, control engineer, T&D engineer, then moved on to planning engineer. Now here am I as the acting water manager. Now, persons often ask when I was asked to take this position, why are you taking somebody with electrical background into water? And there are two sides of it. One is managing, but even outside of management takes no side, whether it's electrical, telecoms, whatever. But within water, most of the water is from the reverse osmosis plant.
Right.
all have major electrical issues. And when I say issues, you hear I speak about a motor that needs to be repaired. There are several motors, there are several high pressure pump that has several problems. What I'm tasked to do though is to map out these RO plants to see exactly the electrical infrastructure and to put some sort of protection in place. But before you could put the protection, you'll have to be aware of exactly how things are. There has been some near misses in the past, and this is too because the entire thing has not been mapped out. But say that to say though, one of the things that I've observed with my preliminary thing is the need for standardization. And we have already embarked on that as we move forward in the water business unit. What has happened now, we have several different pumps sometime in the same plant, which are from different manufacturers, different voltage profile. It increased the inventory because you have to have space for all and sundry. So I'm now trying to standardize the voltage profile of the pumps and motors that we use to make them all be compatible, so that it has less transformers within the whole setup, so then the protection that we have to put in place becomes minimal. I mean, I could go on, but the fact that most of these problems are electrical oriented, I'm now being able to give oversight as to the different engineers with the electrical problems that they have and offer some sort of guidance to them as we map our way forward.
Right. And I also know that the water business unit will also be implementing a SCADA unit. And if I can recall, you were the engineer over the electricity SCADA unit.
That's correct. And a lot of people will hear the term SCADA. It's a long-winded one. It's supervisory control, but it's more or less, it's a monitoring system. You stay at your desk and you monitor what's happening outside. It's a real-time activity. Presently, this is what it is. I'll have to send an operator to drive to Wenner Road to operate the valve so that the water could go whichever direction that I want it to go. And that's just an example saying Wenner Road because they're all over the place. What we're moving towards, we want to strategically put automation, those that could be automated at strategic level. So instead of the operator will have to drive there to operate that valve, with a switch of a button, that valve is operated.
Right.
And then we see rate of flows, put on flow meters on the lines, so we could stay and see exactly what it is. So more or less, we gotta map out the entire water network and have it digital. So somebody or persons within a room will see exactly what's happening out there. You're gonna know whether water is in Cades Bay, yes or no. You don't now rely on the customer to call in and say they're without water. And now it will drive the situation that we're in Cades Bay, that we have this meter to say that water is there, and then somebody calls and say they don't have water. Or if we say that is off and somebody say they have water, we know some valve may be malfunctioning, so then we could dispatch somebody out. It makes it easier to manage what's happening out there. When you get a complaint, how to deal with it. You have a broken main somewhere, instead of somebody have to drive there and allow it to run off, as a switch of a button, you operate that and it gives it times to run off, so that the whole time that it relates to actually customers' needs and customers' response becomes significantly reduced, and it's on real-time data.
All right, good thing. You spoke about the Potworks reservoir earlier, and I'd like to know, I do know, but I would just want to speak about the various mix that we use within the water business. So we know we're utilizing Potworks reservoir, and we hear a lot about crabs. Are there other mix in terms of the different type of water sources involved?
Okay, there are three major types of water source: the reverse osmosis, the surface water, and the groundwater. While reverse osmosis take up the higher percentage of the water on the grid, the surface water and the groundwater are much cheaper insofar as production is concerned. The groundwater both are literally free, but the groundwater do not necessarily need to be treated. it just goes straight onto the network. And the surface water, that needs some sort of treatment and then go onto the network, as opposed to the RO, which is the taking of the seawater and treating it and take it through a number of processes with the high electricity consumption. That is very expensive. So just to answer your question directly, there are three major types of water sources. Is the RO source, the surface water, and the surface water is water that are ponds, potworks, benders, watershed, dunnings, etc., and groundwater, and those are scattered all over the island as well.
So you're confirming that we still utilize groundwater and surface water?
Oh, sure. When DLAPS is, like right now, DLAPS is in operation, and that produces just short of 1 million gallon, 900,000. The Bender's water treatment does a total of just about 500, but about 200 and 50-50, about 260 to 240 in favor of surface water and groundwater. The total groundwater on an average per day is within the region of 400 to 500,000 groundwater.
Oh.
Because we also get groundwater from the Collins well field, the Bender's watershed that I tell you account for 200 plus, and that's the main. We have it in Collins. We have an area called Bristol, that's just east of Collins where the quarry is located. We also have in Cadesby. Those that we have in Claremont are not operational to the moment, because what it is, they have what's called a high TDS, and the TDS is just the total dissolvable solid, but all that means to the layman is that the water is salty.
I was just going to tell you, tell them salt water.
All that it means is that the water is salty,
water.
And it just has to do with the level of water related to the aquifer, so you just have to be left for it to replenish itself.
So at this present moment, there are 7 reverse osmosis owned and operated by APUA, and we've also collaborated with 2 private companies, the NS Management and also 7 Seas Water Group. Are you able to speak a little bit about the collaboration in terms of with these 2 private entities?
Okay, let me first speak as to NS, or North Sound Management, as it is called NS Management for short, but it's really North Sound Management. They too, we have a contract with them, and their production now has increased to reach in the region of 1.1 million per day. Last week it was 1 million, but I track it on a daily basis, and most recently it's up to 1.1 million per day. They do have their challenges as to APUA, as it relates to the dredging of the harbor up in the Crabs Peninsula. As the dredging takes place, it disturbs the water, so the water quality comes in is not the ideal for a reverse osmosis. It causes more treatment. It has to do more downtime in doing what they call backwash, but it's just cleaning of the filters. So that's the situation with the NS Management. As it relates to 7 Seas, the 7 Seas is embarked on a 2-part project. One, there's the Fries project, which is a 1 million imperial gallon project that is up and running, and it's presently running at an efficiency in the region of 85%. So we're probably averaging about 850,000 imperial gallons per day. So that's that contribution to the entire water on the network. As it relates to the next part of the project, which is in its construction stages. Now, we have to give thanks. There is always sometimes a blessing in disguise, but sometimes it creates an havoc on the next step. While I want to go on record that I'm very happy for the rain, as it enabled us to be pumped from Potworks Dam. But on the flip side, it has retarded the construction at the new 7 Seas plants at the Ivan Madrix. It makes it, because we were in foundation stage. With all the rain, we have to be pumping out. When we finish pump out, there was also issue related to cement being readily available. So we have had some setbacks there. We have since poured a slab, and we are moving forward. 7 Seas has already shipped most, if not all, of the necessary equipment. So more or less, they are waiting on us to have that slab ready for them to start to put in their different infrastructure, which is supposed to commence next week, because we wanted to make sure that the concrete is properly cured, and we took off all the necessary farm work, so there's no back and forth or persons doing the same thing together, which increased the possibility for accidents.
All right. So again, if the Seven Seas project, that will be at Ivan Rodriguez, that will be
another 1.2 million imperial gallon. Now, that project too is going to tie into a lot of roadworks or a lot of piping, because we're increasing the capacity at Ivan Rodriguez. So the next thing, how are we going to get that water out? We have already completed all the procurement. The procurement process is well on its way. The suppliers have received all the necessary materials. The materials that we're catering for to make sure that we have first is the HDP pipes. What will be going out pretty soon, though, I've already had conversation with different stakeholders, persons with welding machines. Because of the magnitude of this project, we are thinking at APUA that we're going to be subcontracting some of these welding out. Right. Because it's miles of pipe to be welded. We're going to be getting the backfill material. We're going to be working along with Public Works to ensure that the reinstatement of the roads is done in a matter that is better for the traffic users, etc. But just to let the public know, this is from Ivan Rodriguez to Cedar Valley. Okay. And this is from Ivan Rodriguez via, that's what I think it's called Old Paramount, all the way on that side. Somebody just taught me that, but goes by the Hotel Training Center via Abbott, goes through that with Shaw's development, then goes through New Winchops to get to Cedar Valley. So it's quite intense. So there will be some mainline extension going through these communities. In some cases, for the first part of it from Shell Beach, from Ivan Rodriguez to that tower in Shaw's development, I think they called, I don't remember exactly.
Judges Estate.
Right. That will be the installation of a complete new transmission line. From when it gets to that point, 2 lines will leave from there though. One would go express to Cedar Valley, while the next one is an upgrade of the distribution line through New Winchops. Because presently, let's say there's a 6-inch line, and with the amount of water that's coming, we need to increase that. So it's going to increase to a 10-inch. So we're moving from 6-inch PVC, or in some cases cast iron, to a 12-inch HDP. Okay. So for those persons, I like to look at it as if we're breaking an egg to get something that we can consume. But you indicated earlier that we have strengthened our relationships with the Ministry of Works, and I imagine that we will be working very close with them. Yes, but during that initial process, it means that there will be some sort of disturbance to the road there. There will be there's going to be disturbance. The thing that we want to do now is to get the board communications team, APUA communication teams, and I think they're called PIMU. Yes. Team to come together so they sell out the relevant notice. Before we commence, we'll just send it out in bulk to let them know the entire area, but then they're going to be subsets. So we're going to take out little pockets to identify in week 1 or whatever the date is, we're going to be in this area, so that traffic users could be enlightened that this particular area is what's going to be affected over that period. We're going to go to a break shortly. Of course, we just want to remind the general public that they do have an opportunity to call in. If they do have questions, the number to call is 462-2998, 462-2998. And when we come back, Jason, I want to talk to you a little bit to get, I know you recently went to Cuba, so I would want to hear a little bit about that, and the engineers were here. No problem. All right. Tune in to Necessary Conversations with APUA, your opportunity to hear directly from the APUA team. We're diving into issues that matters most to you
ongoing projects, system upgrades, service improvements, and what it's like doing business with us. Tune in every second Tuesday at 10 a.m. on ABS Radio 90.5 FM or stream it live at www.abstvradio.com. APUA, necessary for life. Welcome back, and if you've just tuned in, you're listening to Necessary Conversations with APUA. Speaking with Jason Peters, the water manager at APUA, the Active Water Business Unit Manager. And we are speaking about water, all water matters. You, the general public, you also have an opportunity to call in if you do have questions. If you have been listening, you can connect with us with your questions or feedback or comments, 462-2998. Jason, I think it was towards the end of last year, you and a team, you traveled to Cuba.
That's correct.
Where you spoke to getting engineers to come and work with us in terms of developing our hydrology system and all that. And they're here with us now. Can you give us some more information how that is going?
That trip to Cuba really was to negotiate on a contract of something that had existed prior to COVID. So the then Water Business Unit Manager, Mr. Ian Lewis, the Minister with responsibility for APUA, Minister Melford Nicholas, and a team of us engineers went to Cuba to fine-tune that document, and also was to look at we were looking for capacity building. We were looking to see how we could get assistance from Cuba insofar as different engineers to look at this whole electrical problem that we are faced with in the water business unit. So we were looking to source some electrical and mechanical engineers because, as I highlighted earlier, we have a lot of problems with these motors. As it relates to the hydrology side, though, there was already discussion ongoing relating to damming the, let's call it the Bendels watershed leading down to Big Creek. For persons on island would recognize that a lot of water goes to that stream and it goes straight to sea. Mm-hmm. We were trying to see how we could increase the capacity of having surface water being readily available for a longer period, creating levees at different locations. So they're studying the topology of the area to see how best that could fit. Also, these same engineers, because we were doing this Northside project, which includes what I just highlighted from Ivan Rodriguez to the Cedar Valley area, the Cuban engineers were given the same data to look at what we had planned, what we, meaning the APUA team, had put together. And, they had done different simulation and assist us in fine-tuning the last piece of the product as it relates to that project. They are also looking at a similar thing in the south side. Why the south side of the island? When I say the south side, from Fry's Arrow, going southwards to Johnson's Point, Crab Hill, all the way to Old Road. They are now looking at that also. While those persons are fortunate that, since the Seven Seas has come on stream, that their water supply has been more constant than most. There are also some leaks that are taking place in that area. So we're trying to see how we could come up with separating the distribution from the transmission. So one person will hear I speak about transmission and distribution. Distribution is normally what goes directly to the customers, and the transmission will go from one source to the next. So we're thinking of installing a pump station in Catesby and to have an express line from Fry's to that pump station in Catesby. So because presently in Old Road, sometimes the person complains that the pressure is low, etc. And this is because going downstream, the water is flowing and all the different customers are pulling away. By installing a transmission bin, one set of water will go directly to those customers and the next set will go to that pump station. It's boosted and then go further, because we're thinking of taking it all the way up to that pump station up in John Hughes, up by the what is it called? Follies, yes, Follies. So that's why we're thinking of increasing that, and the Cubans has been very much a part and parcel of conducting that study.
All right, we're going to pause for a quick minute, and we'll be right back. Tune in to Necessary Conversations with APUA, your opportunity to hear directly from the APUA team. We're diving into issues that matters most to you. Ongoing projects, system upgrades, service improvements, and what it's like doing business with us. Tune in every second Tuesday at 10 a.m. on ABS Radio 90.5 FM or stream it live at www.abstvradio.com. APUA, necessary for life. And we are back. I would like to apologize for those customers who, or the listeners, viewers who normally view on the ABS Facebook page. I do apologize for that. It's not available today. However, for persons who are able to stream, they could stream directly from the website, the ABS website. It is www.abstvradio.com. Again, for persons who wish to call in, if you do have questions, this segment is now open. If you'd like to ask a question, share your feedback, or just give a comment, the number to call is 462-2998. Just before we went on a break, Jason, you were speaking about the Cuban engineers that are here.
Yes, I was. The Cuban engineers, too, they also, as I was highlighted last, that they were working on the Southside project also. And the major task that they are backed on, though, is the watershed in Bendals leading to Big Creek. So they are compiling their data along with the teams from APUA. Our technicians are working closely with them, where they're collecting the necessary information. We're getting information from the different ministries as it relates to the terrain, different height levels, etc. So they're basically doing calculation to see at the rate of flow of water, where all the inlets are located, to see where is more strategic to have the water dam. And whether fortunate or unfortunate, I live in that area, so I have a very good understanding. And we could also encourage, we'll probably have what's called like a town hall meeting where we talk to people in the community, because they are the ones that has the raw data. And there is nothing that could be done without collecting that data to know exactly what to expect. The engineer will look at the different scopes, but those persons would have seen what has happened over time, and nothing beat experience.
All right. So there are two questions that I'm going to ask you. I cannot have a conversation with you pertaining to these two questions that I know the general public, a lot of time these are questions that they do throw at us. Millions have been invested in reverse osmosis plants. Mm-hmm. We see the investments. Some persons may think that either that we don't know what we're doing because there's still persons who are not receiving, or we're still building out and they don't have water 24 hours per day, but it is a process. We on the inside, we understand that. And the other question would be in terms of persons reporting leaks to us. We know we do receive more than 500 water faults reports on a monthly basis. And where the leaks are located, it's not all time we have a crew right next door that they can get to it within minutes. But it's a process that we are working on to establish goals and timelines and how we treat these leaks, because we're not about wasting, but it's a work in progress. So if we can target that, one would be that we are investing, and there are persons who would still say, well, I am not experiencing that. I still have water challenges. If there's hope, what's happening, if we can talk about that. And the other one would be in terms of repairs and reporting faults.
Okay. I'm very close to the reporting faults, because my cell phone goes off as it relates to faults being repaired more time than often. I get calls from different ministers. I get calls from different colleague managers, I get calls from friends and family, and persons find my number, however, wherever. And that is, and just from the information that I'm receiving, I recognize that it's a challenge. The fact, though, is there are more leaks that are reported than can be managed in a day. So it rolls over and it rolls over. And the time allocated to repair is also extended. And I'll draw a scenario where the supervisor will go and have a look at it, and there are times when you see the water coming up at a location, but that's not necessarily where the leak is. The water is just finding the easiest path to escape from underneath the earth. And there are times when we have to engage a jackhammer, excavator with jackhammer, whether small or big, to disturb the concrete around the area. That to extend the whole time as it relates to repairing of a fault. And that is not only with mainline fault, it also has to do with service fault. So when a crew is in an area and it's dealing with a fault, and there are more faults in that area, we advise that they stay in that area and repair those faults. It may comes across that somebody is in some area had reported before somebody in that area, but as it relates to getting to the different jobs, it might be easier to get to this job that is recently reported than one that was reported a day or two before. It's a toss-up where we have to do, though, make sure that those main lines are repaired. The main line faults are repaired because the impact on those are much more significant than the impact on our service line or even distribution that is feeding a particular area. So anytime we're aware that there's a transmission main, all hands has to get on deck to resolve that. And these things, they take hours with the different machinery and the service that we have to offer. So while customers might say, oh, I reported this 3 days ago and nothing has happened, what I've advised my supervisor to do, to go out, to go and assess all these things. Make sure that, you go ahead, see exactly what can, so you could give the operators, the line staff, those persons doing the repair, an idea as to what to expect. So the supervisor will go ahead, have a look at it, because I hear somebody I put on social media saying that they report a leak and somebody came and have a look at it and nobody has reached back. It's not that nobody has reached back, doesn't mean nothing has happened. Sometimes it's isolated, has to wait for another team to get there, but it's all process that we have to take part in. And there are times too, it could even get worse, where the guys them already dispatched to that job, something happens on a main line, we have to pull them back and resolve that main line issue. While I'm happy to report that there is water, and I am more happy to know that there is water than there is no water, but with the water comes these things that exist,
frequent leaks,
because of the aging infrastructure. And as we move forward to try to repair these, it's going to cause a lot more downtime. But the long haul of it is that persons will be in a position to get water 24/7, because water is essential for life.
It is. And the other question would have been about the millions being invested. Some persons are still saying they don't get water often enough. We're not there yet where everyone can get 24/7. But how can you just assure these customers that work is happening, that work is in progress?
Let me put it this way. When I came to water from somebody made me ask me, so you work at APUA, where you work at? I was somewhat hesitant to say water. One, for two things. I wasn't accustomed to saying water, so it was new for me, and I was fully aware of the task at hand as it relates to the problems with water. So I used to say water, and it was like somewhat under my breath. But now I am proudly saying water business unit. And the reason why I could probably say that is because I am fully aware, and persons has reiterated back to me, they have seen the improvement. But I'm not satisfied with the improvement that we are, because everybody is still not having water readily available. And as I really asked to speak about the Seven Seas project, which is coming on stream, which is a further 1.2 million, at that point, we will have enough water on the system that everybody should be getting water at all times. The only issue that we'll be plagued with is the repairs and maintenance to the distribution, and that will forever take place. That is something that will always exist on any network. The way that I want it to be, though, is that there is less downtime for distribution, and the distribution repairs that we should be doing is planned, not necessarily a reactive one when there is a fault. I want to be in a position that we isolate this area, because we are changing out these pipes for whether it's 1,000 feet or 1,000 meters, whatever. So we then come and say, oh, vendors will be out of water today. You could tell them beforehand, because this is what we're doing. Not that there's an interruption, that there's a break and then we're doing it. I don't want to be a reactive situation. I want to be able to do preventative maintenance and put things in place so people are aware of their downtime even before it happens.
Right, good stuff. And one of the things that we can, you said you feel proud now saying you're part of the water business unit team. So do you feel proud to say that the solution of Antigua not being that country anymore with water challenges, how do you feel about it? Do you feel it's realistic? It
is realistic, but I also want to put something out to the people of Antigua and Barbuda, in that Antigua is a drought-prone island, and we all knew this. And persons also need to take responsibility. What frustrates me is we get a major downpour of rain, and the next day, person will be calling saying that they don't have water. Fine, they don't have water from APUA, but you don't have any water. You too have that responsibility. I'm not taking that responsibility away from APUA, because APUA has that fundamental responsibility to provide water. But all I'm urging the general population to be mindful of, this is a situation that we're faced with. With drought-prone island, you too as an individual need to take some level of responsibility and have some form of catchment. As we move to the hurricane season, it's something that I used to dread it working for electricity, but I now am even more fearful for it in water. And I say that to say this. All my pump station uses...
Sir, that's my next question.
Oh, my bad.
You're behaving like another manager. Please, I've prepared all this. So
it's just that while talking, it just shows me the progression and the challenges that I am facing.
Let me get into what my notes that I've worked on. I've had, as climate change continues to impact the region, including extended droughts, water resilience is even more critical than ever. We're now officially into the Atlantic hurricane season. Started June 1. This will continue until November 30th.
Correct.
You spoke about being electricity. I'm also part of when we get into restoration. And one of the, persons may know that, yes, electricity may go out during a storm, but then right after, persons are calling for water. They're calling for water. And in terms of the disaster preparedness, the before, the during, and the after, there are some safety standards and steps that the water business unit too must follow, for both natural, for the, as soon as rain comes, we can't just send it to you, required to be treated, and also for the plants to come back up. You want to elaborate about that so that persons can understand in terms of their readiness, that they need to have their backup in place, because it potentially, some of these water plants may not be able to start right away as soon as we start to deal with electricity restoration.
Now, what has to happen first, immediately post a storm, an assessment of the water plants has to be conducted to see whether or not they're flooded. We're going to have to pump out. We have to make sure that these plants are ready for operation. And even when you get them ready for operation, whether or not electricity is readily available at this plant. Most of these plants doesn't have backup generators. That in itself poses a problem. But let's assume that electricity was able to get back to some of these plants. We have to make sure that we go through all our safety protocols to make sure that anything that was flooded, it's already dried out, etc. Because you're talking about electricity and water within that confine to ensure that it's ready for operation. Upon it's being ready for operation, it's different as it relates to the surface water as opposed to the RO water. Now, the RO water is the seawater, depending on how rough the seas are, how much is disturbed, because the more that it's disturbed, that means the more salt, the more debris that is coming in, so the filters have to be cleaned more often. I think what could happen though is that during right immediately after a storm, we do a total cleanup of the filters to see how much filters we could get clean, because we anticipate that the turbidity, not necessarily turbidity, but the disturbance within the sea would have increased, hence more particles will be coming. So we make that necessary preparation. We have to make the preparation with the vehicles, the bucket, not the bucket truck, but the backhoes, excavators, to do whatever repair. You know, during hurricanes and their major wind, their mudslides, their good slide, that could cause ruptured mains. And this is why we also move into the HDP, because that's the high density polyethylene. They are more robust, they can withstand different movement within the soil because they are not as brittle or elastic. The elasticity is better in them. They curve. When the soil changes shape, they changes also, unlike the more rigid cast iron or HDP. So when the soil change, it creates a pressure and then it pops. The HDP withstand that. So that is one of the things that we're doing to become more climate resilient. But after a storm and there is no power, water is severely affected, because water needs electricity
to operate. And even it's high voltage.
Yes.
So we have to make sure that those panels, there's no moisture or anything like that. So it is a process. Believe it, I've worked at the information center, and as soon as rain comes and after, the first thing person's asking about is water. We want to get water back to them. Of course, our major reverse osmosis, they're on that priority feeders. The electricity will do their part, but it's also a process, and the best thing for customers to do is to have enough stored water.
Correct.
For their essentials while the restoration work happen. We are almost at that hour, but don't think you're going to get away. We could not speak about water and not touch on a question that every time we speak about rain and water and everything, there are lots of opinions that always spark pertaining to Potworks Reservoir, that we should clean it or we should dredge it. There have been some reports. I know one time even the Cubans, they had presented a report pertaining to that. So that information we did go to the public with that, but very often it's an opinion from persons. I don't know if you'd want to just speak on that again.
Okay. This is two part. One is the leak spillway at Potworks. In a collaborated effort between the Ministry of Environment and APUA, we had a team that visited the leak spillway, and this is still in discussion, but there's a proposed carbon fiber material to use to do the repairs. That report has been presented. We are now in the process of just going over that report to see exactly how viable this carbon fiber treatment to the spillway is. So that's one side. The next one is the cleaning of Potworks Dam. Prior to the rain that we had in May, we have already started that conversation. And the cleaning of Potworks has different dimensions to it. One, we were thinking of ensuring that the veins leading to Potworks Dam were cleared so that the water will actually definitely get into the dam. the assessment of the dam was going to take place. And the estimate was to look at, there is a road that normally goes through the dam, was to assess that road to see whether the silt built up is above that road or that road is still very visible. And the reason why we looked at it from that layman term is that the base of the road is not changing. So the base of the road was always the base of the road. If the silt has built up and has end up on top of that road, it means that there is provision to remove that silt, so there is some work to do. If when we go, then that road is very visible, it means that there is not, it's just a myth towards the silt built up. It doesn't really happen. So an assessment has to be done to see where it is. We were even looking to see if we could find data to geo-reference it to when it was built first, to see exactly what was the reading, what was the depth, and compared to what it is now. So we wanted to take somewhat of a, also in collaborate scientific approach to verify whether or not it may appear to the naked eye that it needs to be clean, but then the truth and fact is there's not major built up in there.
Right.
Unless we have that data, it would defeat the purpose of going to try to go in and clean and get below a level that was designed for, and then it leaks. Right. So it has to be done scientific to verify exactly what are the necessary course of action that can be taken, and not we just doing it ad hoc. I've been on the outside and I've heard personnel say, "Oh, clean pot works," and I've always asked, to clean it, you need to know how deep you are allowed to go, and it's the same thing now. And now I'm just taking a proactive approach, and the layman term that I want to look at it was to, well, just drive that existing road to see where the situation is, at the same time getting geo-reference to see whether or not we can actually go deeper, or whether or not there is built up there.
So the water in Potrex Dam is not just heavy rain over the Delapse Bethesda area.
Oh no, water comes from Liberta. Most of the water comes from Liberta, All Saints, etc.
So they will follow the waterway, and then it gets there, it settles, and all that. Jason, the hour is on us. Thank you so much for being here. This program hopefully will continue, and there will be other conversations pertaining to water matters. So this is just a start. Any closing words?
I just want to sensitize the public to explain to them that how water works, in that water has to channel, and it doesn't travel at the speed of light. So when water is produced at one plant, we then have to pump it to charge these lines for it to get to the customers. And the position that we're in now is way better than where we are, so we have to constantly recharge these lines. These lines are almost fully charged as we speak. There is no general area that is out of water because we are short on water. It may be because we have to isolate an area because there are mains broken. And I could see within I have targeted at the end of this year, let's say September, October, as to when we will get to a point where the water woes that we persons are facing in Antigua will be a thing of the past. We will not talk about those things anymore. The only thing that I'll be hearing about is pipe leaking here, pipe leaking there, and that's a problem that I think that we are more able to deal with than person to say that there's no water.
Great. I'm looking forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And again, for persons who may have any water challenges, our contact center is always available 7 days, 24 hours per day. You could call them at 211. You're making a report. They will provide you with a report number, and that confirms that the water report has been recorded, and then they will dispatch that onto the water business unit. I did forget to mention as well that we have engaged with a company to develop an updated water management fault reporting system that would also allow for persons to be able to map their location. They'll be able to upload photos as well, and that is something that hopefully we will be rolling out during the course of this year. Sometime this year that we will be launching a new fault management reporting system. I know there was someone asking if we can take WhatsApp. Ideally, that is not the method that we'd want, because we would not be able to filter everything that will be coming to the WhatsApp in terms of photos, messages, etc. But we are actually working on a fault reporting system that the customers will be able to go on our site, and they will be able to pin the exact location, upload photos or videos specific to that. So that is something that the general public can also look forward to. Thank you so much again. We will be here again, not Tuesday coming, but the other one is every other Tuesday, Necessary Conversations with APUA. Thank you. Tune in to Necessary Conversations with APUA, your opportunity to hear directly from the APUA team. We're diving into issues that matters most to you. Ongoing projects, system upgrades, service improvements, and what it's like doing business with us. Tune in every second Tuesday at 10 a.m. on ABS Radio 90.5 FM, or stream it live at www.abstvradio.com. APUA, necessary for life.